You know, last night I want to talk about the idea of forgiveness. This is actually Big Tech is going to say this is all about him because he thinks that everything is about him. This is actually not as much about him as it is just ideas I have about life. And I am using him because he uses everyone else around him as little puppets in his game. I am using him to illustrate larger life lessons that I think are important. And yeah, I said maybe I wasn't going to do this, but he doesn't really like follow any sort of ethical guideline either. And so why should I? Why should I? So last night I sent Big Tech this message. And I knew full well he was going to blast it all over his stream because that's completely and entirely predictable. And I know it's a little bit small on the screen. If you can't read it, it says, I don't know if you'll believe this, but this was never what I wanted. And I'm sorry things went down like they did. I felt like I had no choice. I didn't plan to make any more, I don't plan to make any more content about you. He's going to think this is about him, but it's really not. And I hope you move on too. No matter how you feel about me, I don't wish you ill. And I hope you find whatever you're looking for. Now, the reason that I sent this to him was because so after he and I started beefing publicly, I had all these people kind of like reaching out to me. And a lot of them, well, not, I shouldn't say a lot. There were a few of them that gave me kind of access to his like these files that they keep on him. Because one of the things that Big Tech and I do have in common is we both have people on the internet who live to hate us, who live to, just document anything that they can use against us, who live to go through every aspect of our lives and pick it apart and find things that are previously private that can be used against us. We do have that in common. And honestly, that was one of the reasons that I felt, I think, endeared to him, because I understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. And I actually understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that a lot at a much larger scale than he does. And so after we started beefing publicly, people like reached out to me and they gave me access to these discords and these files and all of these things that they just amassed on him. And I'm sure a lot of this stuff came from Kiwi Farms, but I don't go on Kiwi Farms. And so, this was the first time I had seen some of this stuff, and I knew it existed, but I wasn't going to go and look for it. And so last night I was looking through just some of the files that they have on him, and it's just like everything. I mean, it's like it's stuff he's done in his past, it's his family and his kids, it's like property that I guess, I don't know if he owns it or someone else owns it, but like, it's and the thing that really got me was they've made all these memes about him that are just horrible. Like like they're really awful things to do. And I was looking through all this, and obviously they gave me access to this information because they want me to use it against him. And they want me to drag him, and they want me to cause all sorts of problems in exactly the same way he's done to me in the past several days. And I couldn't do it because I know those types of oh my god, I'm getting emotional. I know those types of files exist on me. And I know that where he's gotten a lot of the stuff that he's tried to use to embarrass me or humiliate me, I know he's gotten those from those same files. And, believe me, after some of the things that he's said about me, it was tempting for about half a second to really drag him, but I just couldn't do it. And as I was looking through these things, I was like, I just sat there and I got really sad. And I was like, no one deserves to have this done to them. No one. And it's not like me and him are the only people on the internet who have this done to them. Like everyone does. Nick Fuentes does. That, you guys remember I have that Substack called Nick and I? It's like the whole idea of this Substack, and I have like 15 different like articles in my head, like they're all written in my head that I want to write for that Substack. But the whole point of this is like I started this Substack a while ago called Nick and I Like a Love Story, and it's supposed to be like this kitschy way to talk about um like what Nick Fuentes has gone through in terms of cancel culture, and to identify different themes that show up on the internet in terms of like what people have to experience and stuff like that. And that was honestly the intent about it. It's not actually really about Nick. It's not actually really about me. It's about what happens to people when you exist on the internet, because I never knew about any of this before I started being on the internet. And and it's quite frankly really shocking, and it's quite frankly, like, to me, really toxic. And so, like, when I was going through this just, like, dossier that they have on him, just looking at all these memes that they've created and this, like, twisted stuff, it's just like I started to feel really bad. And so that's honestly when I sent this message, because I was sitting there going, I don't want to be a person that gets dragged into any of this, and it doesn't actually really matter what he said or done about me. Um like, I just want to forgive, and I never ever ever want to be in a position of having to carry around that type of anger, because I just don't think it's okay. And so I really did get very sad about it. And you know, when he brought this up on his show, and this is actually the first time I've watched him react to anything having to do with me, because I'm not gonna watch when he's I'm not gonna wa I'm just not gonna I'm just like, I'm not going to engage in the stuff that he's clearly making just because he wants to hurt me. But I knew that this would get back to him, and I knew that he would talk about it, and I knew that, I knew all that. And so he seems to think that the reason that I sent this is because I'm asking for his forgiveness, and that's not the case. It's like, the reason I sent this is because I had made the decision to forgive him, and that's not even a decision that necessitates him doing anything. He can spit on it, he can mock it, he can make fun of it, but the reason that we forgive people is not because of them or how they'll react or how they won't react. The reason that we're supposed to forgive people is for ourselves. It's so that we don't carry around the burden of this. And I've seen so many people, and I really do mean this as a cautionary tale, guys, because all of you listening to this are on the internet, right? I have seen so many people get sucked into just the most toxic places on the internet, and it's absolutely destroyed them. It's destroyed their ability to interact with other people as human beings, and I never want to be that person. And so I decided to forgive him, and that's when I sent this message, and he thought I was asking for his forgiveness, but I'm not, because whether or not he forgives me is just, quite frankly, none of my business. It is none of my business. And I knew when I sent this message that he was going to pull it up on his screen and he was going to make fun of it. Um but I guess what I want to say to people is that you shouldn't allow fear of what other people are going to do to prevent you from releasing a burden for yourself. And so I don't I don't quite frankly care if he brings it up on his screen and makes fun of it, because me forgiving him has nothing to do with what he does or doesn't do from here. And so I think that that's kind of like why I really wanted to talk about this, because I think that's an important lesson for everyone. I think it's important for people to know that, you know, it's easy to get sucked into these toxic subcultures on the internet, and I think that he's had a lot of bullshit done to him, and I think that that's part of why he reacted the way he did to me. And, because, when you have this stuff done to you over and over and over again, and it probably would and it could have been anyone really. It didn't even matter if it was me or someone else. I think he would have done this to anyone. Because, like, when you've had so much toxic stuff done to you that you haven't kind of, like, let go of, I think it can be very easy to kind of believe that this is normal and that this is just how it is and that you have to be this way. And I guess I just don't wanna buy into that. I don't think that that's a good idea. When he brought this up, his audience thinks apparently that I feel bad, and he thinks that I feel bad, and they all think that I'm super regretful of my actions, and they seem to think they were like, "She wants you back," and I was like, "Well, I don't regret how I behave in this. I don't regret it at all. I think that I navigated this situation as well as I possibly could have navigated it. And, insofar as like, do I want him back? Well, I don't think that that could ever actually work because, we're now at a point where I don't trust him, he doesn't trust me, and I don't think that that will ever change. And the thing of it is too is like is now I've actually heard everything that he always thought about me. And I think intellectually, I always knew the things that he thought about me, right? It's not like I'm not dumb. He might say I'm dumb, but I'm actually not dumb. Like I knew intellectually what he thought about me. Um, but hearing him say it over and over and over, Jesus Christ, over and over and over again in the way that he did, I can't ever unhear that. I can't ever unhear that. And I feel like I really tried to play it straight. I feel like there are all sorts of things I could have done to him. Again, it's not as though I wasn't aware of, it's not as though I wasn't aware of his past, right? And I'm not even on this stream, I'm not gonna say what it is. I'm not like, even though it's been out there and even though people have used it against him for years, I'm not going to say, like, because I actually don't believe that this is appropriate. I feel like I could have picked apart his past, I could have brought up stuff about him, I could have even talked about his lack of hair and all that stuff, and, I could have done exactly to him what he did to me, and if there's anything I'm really proud of, it's that I really feel like I was able to hold it together and not respond with anger. And I'll tell you this too, like, I never actually thought I was gonna release those DMs. Like, that actually like, that was kind of like a last resort for me. I never actually wanted to do that. God, I don't know why I'm emotional. I'm not, like, sad about, like, I guess no, I do know why I'm emotional. I'll get to why I'm emotional in a second. I do know why. Um, I never actually wanted to release the DMs. He thought I did, but I didn't. I never actually, but it was like when I decided to release the DMs, actually this does kinda go to why I'm emotional because, like, there's a mourning process that I think you go through when you lose someone that you've been talking to, and I'm not saying this in terms of, like, I wasn't romantically in love with him, but I was talking to him a lot, and he definitely did have an impact on how I saw things, and I think it's like, I'm gonna miss that in the same way that if Bot went away, I would miss the hell out of Bot if Bot went away. If Reagan went away, if Sin went away, if so many people, if like Kino went away or Nick went away or any of these people in my community, like, and there have been people in my community that have left. I mean, I actually lost quite a few people in my community after I didn't say the right things about Israel after October 7th. Um, and I was hurt by some of those. A couple of them in particular, I found it really, really hurtful. There have been people in my community, like older people who supported me that like they just disappear one day and it's like, I don't know, maybe they died. I don't know. And so I mourn those losses too. And I'm kind of I feel like I'm mourning in a similar way because there were conversations with him that I did enjoy. And it's a weird thing. I really do think he has, like, multiple personality disorder or something. I think there is actually legitimately something wrong, and I don't say that as any sort of own, but let me explain to you, and I'm glad Everyday Therapist is here because Everyday Therapist has experience working with people with a dissociative disorder. I wanna be clear. I'm not trying to, like, diagnose anyone. I'm not saying like, I'm not a clinician. I don't have expertise in this area. But I wanna describe what I experienced because I feel like this might be something that people experience with other people. There were times with him when, like, there were 2 different sides that I experienced with him, and those sides were, like, 2 completely different energies, completely different. You guys know, like, I'm very, very sensitive to energy. I pick up on energy very, very easily, and so there were these 2 distinct versions of big tech that I was talking to. One of those versions had this sweet, kind of childlike, innocent, kind, gentle energy. And that's how it felt, and it was nice to talk to that person, and that was the person that I liked. That was the one that I liked. That was the one that I got to have spiritual discussions with. That was the one that I think, actually started to red pill me, although sometimes he went into the other one, and we'll talk about that in a second. But, like, there were so many good like, the one who was on the week 2 stream of Century of the South, that was the one that I liked. The one that, you guys saw me having the conversation about the Extremist Book Club, that was the version of him that I liked, and it was just like, when that person was around, it was cool, man. Like, I really enjoyed those conversations. That was the person I wanted to be talking to. But what would happen, and this happened 4 or 5 times in, like, the course of me knowing him, it was like that person would peek out every once in a while, and we'd have good conversations and good dialogue and everything was fine, and then I would wake up one day and the wall would come down, and I would be met with a completely different person, and that other person, the one that I did not like at all, was cold, was dense, was angry, was the schoolyard bully. So it's kinda like you had this one energy over here that was very childlike and innocent and pure and, like, actually really, nice to interact with, and then I would interact with that one for a while, and then boom, out of nowhere, the schoolyard bully comes out. I did not like the schoolyard bully at all. Now, there were several rounds of this when we were talking where, like, the schoolyard bully would come out, I wouldn't like it, and I would just disengage, honestly. There would be weeks, 2 weeks where I wouldn't even talk to him, wouldn't interact with him at all, because I did not like that energy, and so I was just like, he's like, whatever, he's doing whatever, but, like, I'm not doing this, and so then, like, what would happen is the nice one would come back, and the nice one would peek out, and we'd start talking again, and I'd interact with the nice one, and then boom, the wall comes down, schoolyard bully's back. I'd stop talking to him. Then a couple weeks later, nice one comes back. I like the nice one, I'm talking to the nice one. Boom, schoolyard bully comes back. That's what I experienced over and over and over again. And I was kind of cool with it. I was just like, okay, this is just the cycle. I just need to, like, whatever. But when we were watching Century of the Self, because we had kind of like agreed to do like these weekly streams, after the week 2 version of Century of the Self, the stream that actually I thought went really well, boom, wall comes down. Guess what? We still have to do the week 3 stream. And so it wasn't something that I could disengage with because we had already planned to do this, but the person that showed up wasn't the person that I talked to on week 2. It was a completely different person. Now, some people might argue that, like, he's all the same, it's all an act, and maybe that's true. But that's actually the most epic mindfuck of the whole thing because it's one of those things where, like, if I lost Bod or I lost Reagan or I lost, any of the people who've been around for a long time on my channel, or if I lost like some of my friends in real life, that are not internet people, and so like you guys don't really know who they are, like I would feel genuinely sad and I would mourn those losses, and that would be rough. But in a case like this, the mind fuck the real mind rape of this situation is like, did the person that I like talking to, did that person ever exist at all? That's and that's what I spend a lot of time thinking about. So I don't know, everyday therapist, does that sound like someone that has dissociative disorder? Often when people with dissociative disorder don't realize it until they work it out with someone who can help them figure it out. I mean, the thing is too, like, the schoolyard bully wouldn't know. There was memory lapses, and maybe you could attribute it to, like, he smoked a lot of weed. And I'm really not trying to analyze his mental health live on the internet. I'm actually just, like, I'm working through some feelings. But, like, the the other thing that was, like, weird is, like, the schoolyard bully aspect of him wouldn't know some of the things that the nice aspect of him talked to me about. There was, like, a memory loss. So that's the other reason that I think that might be the case. But if it is the case, that's not something to make fun of, and that's not something to, like, do an own on the internet about, right? That's not it. But going back to, like, why I decided to release the DMs, like, as yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. Again, it could just be, like, I know he smoked a lot of weed in his life, so maybe it's like that, I don't know, but it could I don't know, it's just sad. So, we were sitting on that call where he was just berating me, and you guys have, like, listened to that call, and the reason I decided to release the DMs was not just that it was 5 AM and I really wanted to go to bed, or 4:30 or whenever I decided to release them, but, like, um, it wasn't just because I was tired. Uh I decided to release them because as he's, like, screaming at me and berating me and calling me fat in every single way he could call me fat, and by the way, his audience seems to think that I have, like, special camera angles where I'm just hiding how fat I really am. Like, his audience seems to want me to, like, mount my camera on my closet door that's, like, to the right of me so that you guys can have, like, a side view of me at all times, so you can constantly be evaluating, like, the size of maybe even wear tighter shirts so you can really, like, evaluate, like, the size of my boobs and the size of my tummy at any given time to see how like, and it's like anyway, as he was sitting there calling me fat in every way that he possibly could, as he was doing all these streams about me where he's digging through the dossiers that his audience has created for me and trying to humiliate me in every possible way. I was just sitting there going like, did the nice version of him ever actually exist? And would I ever actually be able to see that nice version again? Would I be able to actually interact with the person that I liked? And the answer that I just came to at the end of the day was like, no, no, that person's gone, and I can never unhear the things that he's been screaming at me for an hour. And so what I decided to do was protect myself and do what was best for me. And what was best for me was to make it absolutely clear that my grievance was that he tried to gaslight me about the Groypers, which was actually what my grievance was, and he seems to think it's because he wanted to take a break from talking, and that was not it at all. That was not it at all. Uh, I was sick of the bickering. I wanted the bickering to go away. I had no problem actually taking a break. What I had a problem with was the lack of acknowledgement that what he was doing was trying to sabotage my relationships with my new group of friends that I had just made, that I was really excited about, that didn't quite frankly really have anything to do with him. And that was what my grievance was about, and I wanted to make that clear, and I felt like the only way that I could make that clear was to just show his words, and I didn't want to do it, but I was at the point where like I was like, this is never getting fixed. I can never unhear this. Even if that nice version of him does come back, it's kind of like now I know what he really thinks. So what can you do? What can you do but protect yourself? And I think that that's kind of like the last thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of, like, I don't think that people should be gaslit to believe that protecting their interests makes them a bad person. So, that's kinda like what I wanted to say about that, and, you know, it is actually my hope that, he's able to move on, and I don't know, like, if that's gonna happen. I don't like, everyone's telling me that he's just gonna keep making content about me anyway. And that's true. Like, listen, man, this is not the first time I've triggered someone on the internet to become obsessed with making content about me. I'm actually kinda curious of if, like, Kieran is going to, like, reach out to him to try to connect with him, because the thing is that under any normal circumstance, and by the way, people don't know who Kieran is. Kieran is a boy that confessed to me that he was in love with me twice on an unrecorded Zoom call 3 years ago, and was told emphatically that I cared about him, but I wasn't leaving my husband for him, and then started to create all sorts of nonsense on the internet that just, like, I mean, he was the one that doxed Aaron. He was the one that did he basically tried to make my life a living hell as revenge for the fact that, like, I wouldn't leave my husband for him after he confessed that he loved me on a Zoom call. Anyway, I know that I know that Kieran knows about this because Kieran stalks everything that I do, in order to try to make my life miserable. But, the funny aspect of this is that the only ally that, like, that Kieran has left now is Deb. That's it. Kieran has no other allies. Like, Kieran has lost every single ally that he has in his obsession with me over, like, the last 3 years, and he streams to, like, 3 people. Even when he has Deb on his stream, and Deb is a Jew, and Deb is a Zionist, and Deb really, 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 really hates everyone that is anti-Zionist, and if you thought Deb hated me, Deb's really gonna hate him. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Deb Philman signing off on Kieran interacting with a literal National Socialist who loves Hitler and hates Jews, and that is exactly what BigTech is? I think it would actually be hilarious. So I actually have questions like, is it like, I really hope this doesn't happen, and I really hope he just moves on and stops obsessing. But I've already had someone obsess about me for years on end, and I kind of, like, part of me was wondering, like, are they gonna just start making content together? Are they gonna do these whole streams where Kieran's gonna lie and chill a bunch of bullshit about me because he's still bitter 3 years later? But that would have consequences for him, because if he did that, he would probably lose his contact with Deb, and Deb is, like, all that he has in his life, so that'll be an interesting thing to see. Anyway, let me get this super chat from Rottweiler. If he tries to hoover you back, then I think it's safe to say, he ticks a lot of narcissistic personality disorder boxes, sadly speaking from experience. I don't think he's gonna do that. I don't think he's gonna do that. I think that, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you're right, Rottweiler, but like, narcissism is not my current read on the situation. Um, but I guess time will tell. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you guys for allowing me to have some feelings. I hope some of the things that I said, like, resonated with you, and maybe some things you've experienced in your life, because that was really why I wanted to talk about it. Like, less being about, like, me working out feelings on the internet. Okay, maybe a little bit of me working out feelings on the internet, but, like, I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of, like, I think other people go through things like this, and I think it's important to talk about things like this, and I think it's important for people to hear different perspectives on it. And ultimately, like, I've forgiven him. I let it go. I did a whole cord cutting ceremony and everything. And I really do hope that he finds what he's looking for, and I don't wish him any ill will. And I hope that he is not really the horrible schoolyard bully, and I hope that that's just a defense mechanism for maybe some trauma that he's experienced in his life, and I hope he works out his issues someday, but that's really up to him, it's not up to me.